Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Hill, Heisey,
Excused.
Holbert, Lee, Lundeen, Marble, Moreno, Pedersen,
Excused.
Priola, Rankin,
Excused.
Rodriguez,
Excused.
Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zinzinger, Mr. President.
Here. With 31 present, 0 absent, and 4 excused, we have a quorum. Mr. Majority Leader, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Members, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Carpenter, please add Senator Rodriguez to the roll call. Approval of the Journal, Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, February 20th, 2020 be dispensed with and that the Journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Bill 173, 174, 175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, and 182, Christian Joint Resolution 14, 15, and 16, correctly engrossed. Senate Bill 126, Senate Bill Memorial 2, correctly re-engrossed. Senate Bill 146 and 155, correctly enrolled. Senate Bill 63.
Senate Services. Committee reports.
February 20, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 125 be amended as follows as so amended be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1037 be amended as follows as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1067 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. February 20, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. Senate Bill 164 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. February 20, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1095 be referred to Committee on Appropriations. February 20, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1094 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. February 20, 2020, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources Consideration Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1087 be amended as follows. As amended be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. February 20, 2020. Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources had consideration had hearing the following appointments, recommends appointments placed on consent calendar confirm members of the Colorado Wildlife Habitat Stamp Committee for terms expiring December 31st, 2022. Timothy Brass of Longmont, Colorado, at-large member reappointed. Daniel C. Gates of Canyon City, Colorado, sports person reappointed. February 20th, 2020. Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources had consideration had hearing the following appointments, recommends appointments placed on consent calendar confirm members of the Colorado Wildlife Habitat Stamp Committee for a term expiring December 31st, 2021. John Ramotsky of Grand Junction, Colorado, to serve as an ex officio member representing the Division of Wildlife on occasion by the resignation of Patricia Dorsey of Bayfield, Colorado, appointed for a term expiring December 31st, 2022. John Nestor of Rifle, Colorado, sports person on occasion by the resignation of Robert William Wynn of Rifle, Colorado, appointed for a term expiring December 31st, 2023. Jennifer Gluck of LaSalle, Colorado, to serve as sports person, appointed. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Education has had consideration of hearing the following appointments. Recommends appointments be placed in consent calendar confirmed members of the Colorado Student Leaders Institute Executive Board for terms expiring July 7th, 2021. Michelle Tucker of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as sports person employed in the educator in high school, appointed. Oscar Felix, PhD of Fort Collins, Colorado, to serve as a person employed, teaching, faculty, or administrator in an institution of higher education in Colorado, appointed. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Education has had consideration and had hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar of confirmed members of the Board of Governors of the Colorado State University System effective December 31st, 2019 for terms expiring December 31st, 2023. Nathaniel Easley Jr. of Denver, Colorado, to serve as Democrat appointed. Polly Berrigan-Bach of Denver, Colorado, to serve as Democrat appointed. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Transportation and Energy after consideration of matters committee as following. Senate Bill 159 be amended as follows. That's so many be referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Health and Human Services had on consideration of having the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed in consent calendar of confirmed members of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Commission for terms expiring August 1st, 2021. Kathleen Hall of Carbondale, Colorado, to serve as representative of the government academic community and unaffiliated on occasion by the resignation of Laura Jean Davis of Westminster, Colorado, appointed for a term expiring August 1st, 2022. Emily McConnell Freeman of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member of the public, a Democrat appointed. Elizabeth Jane O'Connell of Chapman, PhD of Aspen, to serve as a representative of the academy community and a Democrat reappointed. Stephen Wendell Gillette of Berthoud, Colorado, to serve as a representative of local government as a Republican reappointed. February 20th, 2020. Committee on Health and Human Services on consideration of hearing the following appointments. Recommends the appointments be placed in consent calendar of confirmed members of the Colorado Health Facilities Authority Board of Directors for term expiring June 30th, 2023. Jason Dennis Ports of Durango, Colorado, unaffiliated, appointed. John Lester Vigil, Pueblo, Colorado, unaffiliated, reappointed. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Health and Human Services after consideration of matters committee as following. Senate Bill 144 will be postponed indefinitely. February 20th, 2020, Committee on Finance after consideration of matters committee as following. Senate Bill 52 will be amended as follows. As someone be referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Carpenter, please add Senator Heisey to the roll call. Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 093.
Senate Bill 93 by Senators Foote and Finberg and Representative Jackson concerning protections related to mandatory agreement provisions in connection with enacting the Consumer and Employee Dispute Resolution Fairness Act.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 93 lay over until Monday, February 24th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 093 until 2/24. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 93 will be laid over until Monday, 2/24, and retain its place on the calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 126.
Senate Bill 126 by Senator Story and Small and Representative Robinson Van Winkle concerning the operation of a licensed family child care home in a common interest community.
Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 26 on third reading, final passage, and encourage a favorable vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 126 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Gardner,
Come up here.
To save Donovan's vote.
with a vote of 32 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 126 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Crowder, Winter, Moreno, Williams, Bridges, Tate,
Good bill, good bill.
Todd, Lee, Minority Leader, Priola, Marble, Heisey, Gonzalez,
That's why I almost scampered back.
Janal, Danielson.
It's good.
Please add the president.
Nice work, Senator Story.
Nice job. Good job.
Good work.
We'll do it again.
General order, second reading of bills. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills, and Senator Danielson will take the chair.
Committee will come to order. The coat rule is relaxed for everyone in the Senate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 138.
Senate Bill 138 by Senator Rodriguez concerning increased consumer protection for homeowners seeking relief for construction defects.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 138 lay over until Monday, February 24th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 138 till Monday, February 24th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 138 will be laid over until Monday, the 24th. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 119.
Senate Bill 119 by Senator Janelle and Representative Hawkes Lewis concerning expanding the Canadian prescription drug importation program to include prescription drug suppliers from nations other than Canada upon the enactment of legislation by the United States Congress authorizing such practice.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 119 lay over until Tuesday, February 25th.
The motion before the body is to lay over Senate Bill 119 until Tuesday, February 25th. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 119 will be laid over until Tuesday, February 25th. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 167.
Senate Bill 167 by Senators Hansen and Priola and Representative Becker concerning increasing consumer access to electric motor vehicles by allowing manufacturers to sell their own electric motor vehicles directly to consumers.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 167. There is no committee report.
Senator Hansen?
No, wait, he made the motion.
She says to the bill.
Oh,
No further discussion? Senator Hansen.
yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And colleagues, very pleased to be joining Senator Priola and bringing Senate Bill 167 to you this morning. We do expect, as per our commitment from the committee hearing, to have one amendment for your consideration. And I think that puts us in a very solid place with this bill. This is a bill fundamentally about allowing equal market access for Colorado customers to electric vehicle products. There are some really amazing new offerings that are coming to the market. We want to make sure that all Colorado customers have access to those regardless of who the manufacturer is, and create market parity with existing EV direct sales from one EV manufacturer, and we want to make that an even playing field across the state. And with that, I ask for your support of Senate Bill 167.
Senator Hill. There's an amendment on the desk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I'd love to explain briefly to you my approach to this bill before moving my amendment. I guess to kick things off, you know I've never shared the view that it's our job to pick and choose winners and losers up here. That's not government's job. That's not the task of what we came down here to do. And so while I understand, I don't agree with the push that it's our task to create a separate set of laws, rules, subsidies for electric vehicles. That's not our job. That's not what we came here to do. At the same time, we did come here to say we're going to respect our constituents and the choices that they make. And right now, I believe that our laws can be limiting to a new model of how we sell cars in Colorado. The current bill in its form, in my view, I don't support it in its current form. I've been very public about that. But the current bill, I believe, seeks to address a problem and creates a further problem, a loophole in our franchise laws. If you look at, if you're having trouble sleeping, feel free to turn to Title 44, Section 20, 125. 125 and 126 deal with franchise law and regional market authority, relevant market area, RMAs, in Colorado. 125 sets those. 126 is where we're putting this bill, Senate Bill 167. I think the way it's currently drafted, we put a hole in 125, and so therefore I've worked relentlessly trying to get some form of agreement on a clarification that if you don't want to go through the process of selling cars through a franchise model, the way all of our cars are sold right now, then you can go directly to the consumer, and that's what this bill seeks to do. I clarify with this amendment, and we'll discuss it afterwards. I move Amendment L005 to 167. Madam Chair.
Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L005.
Amendment L005 to Senate Bill 167.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, do you mind if we actually read it out loud? Because it's a very brief amendment. And colleagues, I ask either we can listen to the reader or I'm happy to read it aloud as well. It's a clarifying sentence that I think brings both sides, while maybe not in support, but in agreement with the intention of this bill. And so, Madam Chair, do you mind if we read that out loud? Or
It's
read
available
that
at the desk if anyone wants to read it. Go ahead, Senator Hill.
Sure. Subsection 2, nothing in this subsection 2G affects existing franchise agreements or rights to relevant market areas as provided in an existing franchise agreement or in section 4420-125. Colleagues, and so what I'm working to do here, working to clarify, is that, look, we don't have the right, we can't come in here and change up contract law. That is contract, that is law. We don't have the right to change it, and arguably nor do we have the authority to change existing contract law. So we clarify that. If you want, we can go through the details, and I'm sure there are folks that are still opposed in principle to some of this, but we define a geographic area. We define that, and it's on page 369 in Title 44. But we clarify it's a separate section of law. So this amendment, in my mind, says, hey, for a new entrant to the market, if you want to go and sell direct to consumer, you can do that. But for those of our constituents who have invested millions of dollars and countless decades into building up a business, this clarifies that this new law will not affect current law and will protect their existing business. Colleagues, respectfully ask for your support on Amendment 5.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L005? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if the amendment sponsor could share his thoughts on whether this would affect the ability of a manufacturer to change, amend, revise a franchise agreement. It's been decades since I was in this industry, but my experience was that the manufacturer, working with a local company, a dealer, generally reserves the right to amend an agreement. So I understand this amendment doesn't affect anything with that agreement, but the reality is I don't think that matters, because one side of that relationship, the manufacturer, reserves the right to renegotiate that agreement. So it's okay that this doesn't, but this doesn't change anything about that. It's not that this creates some new relief. We wouldn't be changing the agreement, but the manufacturer can. And the reality, I think, if this bill were to become law, is that any manufacturer that does currently or would in the future sell hybrid electric vehicles would revise that agreement, no longer sell them through those dealers, and do the consumer direct. And I understand that some people think that that's a better option. Well, it could be if that's what hybrid and electric dealers do or would do, like the current manufacturer that does consumer direct sales through one location and then service centers around the state. But what we're doing right now is creating a scenario where manufacturers that sell hybrid and electric vehicles and gas and diesel or diesel would have the opportunity to go consumer direct, go around their dealer network, and they certainly would revise their agreement with the dealer to do that. So I appreciate that this amendment wouldn't take away that, but we're not giving anyone anything. It already exists.
Senator Priola.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and to the good senator from Douglas County, this amendment was asked for by the auto dealers in committee because they were concerned that the current draft was too ambiguous, and they wanted assurance that an OEM couldn't put a store right next to them. So we agreed to this amendment.
Senator Hill.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Maybe just a slight clarification on that. This is my amendment. This is my attempt. I have not gotten actually support from other folks on this is my attempt to say, how do we protect the right of our existing folks who have invested a ton of energy and a ton of money into their existing model while taking a free market approach and not saying we will restrict new entrants to how they have to do business in Colorado. So I think I can be clear in saying there are a lot of folks who don't support this amendment as well. But this is my attempt to say, can we have both sides come together? Can we bring new entrants, and can we protect the existing model? And that's why I'm running this amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the body is the adoption of Amendment L005. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L005 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was in committee listening to this bill, and there was kind of two themes of concerns that emerged. And one of them is directly addressed by the amendment that was just passed. And so I would ask for an aye vote on this bill. The bill sponsors have followed through on addressing one of the primary concerns that I heard in the committee by clarifying the concerns that a lot of the dealers brought up, that they had invested time and money in making their dealerships prepped and prepared for dealing with electric vehicles. They were concerned that that investment in their small business could be put at jeopardy by perhaps some interpretation of the bill. And so I think that this goes a long way in addressing that concern. And so I ask for an aye vote on the bill, and thank the sponsors and other members for working to address at least a large part of the concerns that I heard in majority from the small dealers that testified. Thank you.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will take a senatorial 5. Senator Hill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I appreciate the patience as we worked on this. The previous amendment that we just passed clarifies, it says nothing in this subsection affects existing franchise agreements or rights to relevant market areas as provided in an existing franchise agreement or in section 442125. This amendment that I offer now, will offer in just a second, strikes that word existing to say that nothing in the subsection affects franchise agreements or rights to relevant market areas. Madam Chair, I move Amendment 007.
Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L007.
Amendment L007, Senate Bill 167 by Senator Hillman.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and members. Very pleased to be able to make this clarification. Thank you, Senator Hill, for clarifying this. There was never an intent of the bill to impinge on current franchise agreements, and I think this amendment helps us to clarify that, so we know exactly what we're voting on with the full package. Thank you.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, colleagues.
And Senator Fields, we're on Amendment L007.
I rise in opposition of this amendment. We heard earlier that the Colorado automotive dealers support this amendment, and I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. When I think about the bill and I think about this amendment, we are creating winners and losers. And who's losing? Is our economy, the 64 counties, when you talk about direct sales. So I'll come back and talk more about this, but this is no on this amendment. We're talking about tinkering with a long-standing practice as it relates to franchise dealership. We need to be clear about what we're doing here. And I represent a community that is unique and also common across the state of Colorado. We need to be careful about what we're doing today. And so I'm voting no on this amendment. I'm also voting no on the bill.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L007? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L007. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L007 is adopted. To the bill. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I ask you to be thoughtful on this bill and do ask for a no vote. This scenario reminds me of something that happened in the liquor industry back in 2016. For decades, 80, 90 years in that scenario, the state of Colorado had constructed a very highly regulated scenario for people who operate in that industry. And then in 2016, there was a bill, Senate Bill 197, that basically turned that on its head. But Senate Bill 197 was a very highly negotiated bill, piece of legislation that involved negotiation with all participants of all three tiers of that industry. But with this bill, you've got hundreds of automobile dealers around this state who oppose this bill. They're saying, wait, don't do this. This is going to have a devastating impact on their industry. And I understand the argument about free market. But what reminds me of Senate Bill 197 in the liquor industry is we got rid of something that's not at all a free market in favor of a more free market solution. But what we did in crafting that legislation was we talked with participants from the industry, and we got approval, buy-in, support from all three tiers, and they said, yes, we like this change. Okay. We took away a very heavily regulated structure and replaced it with a different structure. Here you've got businesses that employ thousands of people all over the state and probably dozens or hundreds in the district that you represent. And they do business in a certain way, or certain ways, because we have told them, as the state of Colorado for decades, if you're going to do this business, you have to do it this way. And now, without discussion with those industry participants, we're going to say, never mind. Or at least those of you who support the bill are going to say, never mind, I won't do that. So if you want to change the way the dealer network is structured, if you want to do that, sit down and talk with the dealers. Sit down and understand the economic pressures that they're under in a boom and bust economy that we have here in Colorado. Understand the people who are striving to get certificates and earn their way into auto technician jobs. Some of you might say, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to be that. Well, okay, that's fair. But there are a lot of people who do. There are a lot of people out there. There's hundreds of people out there, thousands of them, who have pursued that as their career, or in a parts department, or yes, in sales. But what we're negotiating here, what we're debating here in Senate Bill 167 is for the state to step in and say, hey, all those decades of regulatory framework that we've set up to tell dealers and individuals who are licensed that if you're going to be in this industry, you have to do it this way. With the passage of this bill, we will say, never mind. All of those business loans that you've taken out, never mind. We're going to change the conditions. The requirement that if you're going to be a dealer that you have to follow huge amount of law. Everything from the size of the lettering on your front door and the hours posted to having every person who is involved in selling has to be licensed. And then all the environmental restrictions, requirements they have for their shop work. And the insurance. And oh yeah, the payroll. Because what this bill will do is set in motion a very quick transition away from this dealer network to manufacturer direct sales. And I believe unemployment, loss of jobs, companies closing, not manufacturers. No, apparently the bright future that we're offering as the General Assembly to the automobile industry in Colorado is your world is about to change. Well, if the free market was bringing that change, so be it. But this isn't the free market. It's the opposite of that. We have set in place decades of restrictions, requirements, and we're about to pass a bill that would allow manufacturers that sell hybrids and electrics to say, okay, now we don't have to do it that way anymore. And with that significant change, I believe those who support this bill are about to put hundreds or thousands of people out of work. And that deserves time, thought, negotiation, and this bill has none of those things. Vote no.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, what I got was a letter from a dealer in Boulder, Colorado. I think it has merit to somewhat go over. And, you know, before I read this, I will tell you that he wrote to me, and he realizes I'm from Alamosa, and I wrote him back and told him maybe he ought to talk to his representatives within his county. He's got 2 of them, and convey to them his feelings. You know, I think what this has done is this is part of the cloud that's over the state of Colorado on businesses. You know, I think that, you know, even people that live in some of these counties do not feel that they are a part of the state anymore because of the actions taken against them. This is, let me read a little bit of this. Our team consists of 112 employees, some with tenure of more than 30 years. We proudly represent Honda and Acura. We currently offer the Honda Insight, Honda Accord Hybrid. It goes on a little bit here. It says the buzz around new technologies is amazing. However, given the increased cost and the currently low gas prices, consumer demand for EV is dismal. So we earn and stock vehicles from Honda Accord and sell in volume. All that said, our business has substantially invested in ramping up to sell more EVs, and we know that this is the future. We are training staff and investing in infrastructure to facilitate EV sales. We know Acura, and especially Honda, will be expanding the number of EV models available very soon. But then it goes on, it says, we contribute more than $55 million to Colorado's economy, dollars generated by sales and service. This translates into more than 4.5 million to local and state taxes. The loss of these dollars would be an enormous blow to Colorado, but that is what happens if our businesses were to disappear. I think that this is, I think this, if you look at the legal fact sheet that was put on your desk, they already have that right. So I'm not sure that, I think this bill was put together in too much haste without stakeholders' involvement. Because if we have some of the dealers that are reaching out to us and say, you know, this actually could very well destroy their business. And the reality, who'd want to buy from the manufacturer out of state? You know, we all buy vehicles, but when we have a breakdown, we take it back to the dealer. If you buy an EV from another state, who's going to advocate for you when that car breaks down? And you could say, well, it'll never break down. Well, and that's part of the fantasy that some people live in. I think that this bill needs to be killed, and because I do believe, according to the legal fact sheet, that right already exists. But I think we need to protect these automobile dealers because they protect and advocate for the buyer. So I would be a no on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, let's draw back to what this bill is really about. This bill is specific to emerging technology, electric vehicles only. And I will tell you why it is electric vehicles only. You can search right now on your laptops, Google the term ZEV standards and Tim Jackson, and you will see him in the Denver Post and other publications the prior year or two saying consumers don't want electric vehicles. That is why he opposed the ZEV standards, with the pretense that consumers did not want electric vehicles. Well, I will tell you, there is another company out there that starts with a T that is growing exponentially and taking market share from the OEMs, Ford, GM, and others. And we're seeing a disruption in what has been traditional for 80 or 100 years. I liken it to what happened to Kodak and digital photography, Amazon and Sears and Roebuck. That's what this bill is about. So this bill narrowly clarifies along the lines of electric only. The dealers will have the same rights that currently exist with ICE technology. ICE stands for internal combustion engines. But the current economics of dealers are such that for every electric vehicle they sell, they know, they won't say this, but they know going forward they will lose on the maintenance because electric is so much more efficient and costs so much less for consumers that the consumer that purchases an electric vehicle will not come back in to have their oil changed and parts fixed, because electric vehicles have, and I'm going to underscore this, 1/7 of the parts that an ICE, internal combustion engine, has. Electric will last 2 to 3 times what an internal combustion engine will last. In the greenhouse business, we used to buy electric motors for our fans to cool the greenhouse. They would run half the day in the summer, fall, and spring and be shut off in the winter. They would last for 12 to 14 years before we had to replace them. That is the nature of the change of the technology that's coming down the pike in automobiles. The industry has a term called compliance car. Google that term. They have had electrics available, but they've dubbed them compliance cars. They only produce them to comply with laws. Also, Google the EV1 that GM put out in the 90s. And immediately, when they realized it cratered their economic model, bought them all back and crushed them. Members, this bill is about consumers being able to vote with their dollars and go online to buy electric vehicles only that will then be delivered probably to dealers and serviced probably at dealers like the Mustang Mach-E that's coming out in about 8 or 10 months. Yes, by Ford. So this bill is against my own self-interest, because if there, in my opinion, if there is any hope for the VWs, Fords to survive and not become the next Sears or Kodaks, they need this bill.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. To the bill sponsors, I have a question. It's a narrow, detailed, specific question. Why? I truly want to understand. I'm looking at the statutes, and I'm a free market guy. I'm a bring the competition guy. I'm the let's disrupt things because through disruption we find a better pathway forward guy. We all live in a world now where direct distribution is a key component of our lives. Who ordered something from Amazon this week? Oh, come on, be honest. Get your hands in the air. Direct distribution. And some people have security problems on their front porches. You need to manage that. But the question I have is this. Given the fact that I support that, I believe in that, I think that's available. It exists in the current statute. Now, theoretically, the statute's restrictive. But every time we create a restriction, we also create exit paths, off-ramps, escape hatches. In the statute, 4420-126, independent control of dealer. I don't know why we regulate dealers, but it's in the statute, so let's look at it. Except as otherwise provided in this section, no manufacturer shall own, operate, or control any motor vehicle dealer or used motor vehicle dealer in Colorado. Detroit, stay out of Colorado. That's essentially what it said. However, it goes on to say, realistically, we need to provide some pathways in because Detroit, we need you here in Colorado. Back in the day, that's what they were thinking. It's not Detroit anymore, it's Beijing. It's other places where they're better with electric motors perhaps than we are. Shame on us. Notwithstanding, it says, subsection 1 of this section, the following activities are not prohibited. And here's the part that I'm actually finally going to get to the question for the bill sponsors. It lists a number of exceptions. The one that I see as the most broad, that in fact provides the opportunity to do exactly what this bill purports it must have life in order to allow for. It exists in the statutes now. Why do we need 167 becomes the question. And that exception is this. Operation of a motor vehicle dealer if the manufacturer has no other dealers of the same line make in the state. So why does that exemption, that exception, not provide space for the exact type of market penetration and expansion that purportedly this bill is necessary? And I've marked, in case you want to refer to the statute, I just put a little mark next to the statute. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the good senator from El Paso County. Let me respond to several things that were brought up in the debate thus far. First, I think this is fundamentally a bill about free markets and allowing customers in Colorado to access the full offerings that are coming to the market. And without this bill, there is ambiguity as to whether those new entrants can enter the state. So to your last point, and that you've marked in 4420-126, I think there is some ambiguity of whether or not these new entrants could come. And that is really what we're trying to clear up with this bill, is to say other manufacturers like the manufacturer that's already here and already doing direct sales, that others should be able to have that same access under those same rules. And I think what we have here is a situation where there's disagreement on the interpretation of the current rules. And so if there was no change that was needed, then why is there opposition? Why does it matter? And I think that's the interesting thing that we're looking at in this debate, is if it was already settled, then this bill is no big deal, and we should all vote yes. But I think there's serious legal minds who have looked at this and said, well, we're not sure. We're not sure if new entrants can come to the state. So let's clear that up. Collectively today, this room can start the process to clear that up. And that's really what we're trying to do with the bill, is remove ambiguity, make sure that our constituents can buy all the new innovative products that are coming to market. We put on the amendment to make sure that we're not impinging on current legal contracts and to clear up any ambiguity in the situation for new entrants. And so I believe in free markets, as do you. I believe in allowing disruptors to come to the market because that produces the best outcome for our constituents. And I think at its base, that's what this bill is about. And I don't think we should be a body that is here to protect one party over another from competition. And that is what I'm trying to accomplish with my co-sponsor with this bill.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I want to address some of the comments that were made by the senator from, I think it's Adams County, and also the senator that was just up here from Denver. They talk about free market. You know, that's already available in the state of Colorado. If a consumer wants to buy an EV vehicle, they can drive up to any dealership and buy one. It already exists. If you're in Boulder, Denver, Lamar, Sterling, all across the state of Colorado, if you want to buy an EV vehicle, all you have to do is to drive up to any dealership and they will sell it to you. If you know anything about automotive sales, they will sell you a car. And if you want an EV, they will sell it to you. If it's not on the lot, they will order it for you. And there is a market for EV. But what this does, it kind of takes away, when you think about the franchise laws and model. It's been in practice for 83 years. 83 years. And what this bill is doing, it's allowing government to come in and to tell you what should take place as it relates to buying a vehicle. Really? Do we want big government to come into some of these local communities that have automotive dealerships to say that you can go and buy direct sales? You can have an enterprise, you can have a dealership on one side of the street and maybe a direct dealer across the street. And that dealership is not having the same opportunity. This is not about levering the playing field for dealerships. If you want an EV and you want to buy it, you can do that at any automotive dealership across the state of Colorado. The reason we have a franchise model that's been operating for 83 years is to protect the consumer. To protect the consumer. So what happens when you buy a car? They have these warranties. If there's issues going on with that car, you can go to that dealership and you can get the repairs. Have you ever tried to return something from a direct model, from some kind of online, especially a car. What if it breaks down? I support EV. I support clean air. I support protecting our air, our water, and our land. But I also want to protect our economy. And what we're doing is we're undermining our economy by creating a system that undermines 83 years of retail sales for automotive dealerships. Undermining it. Do you know that buying a car is the second most important purchase for most people? Especially the people I represent, and I represent rural, urban, and suburban. I work in a community, if you've ever seen this, on RTD, you might see that you see grocery carts at a bus stop. Do you know why those grocery carts are there? I mean, you might see 4 or 5, because that's as far as someone can take their groceries. It's to the bus stop. I represent a community and a state that not everyone has access to transportation. And they're not going to go online to buy a vehicle. And if they do buy an EV, then there's certain types of privileges that go along with that. Where are you going to charge up? I'm dealing with a community that has issues with affordable housing. And there's apartment complexes that don't have electrical charging station. I have people who want to ski, maybe up in Vail or Aspen or whatever, and the roads are congested. How are they going to charge on I-70 on their way up to a ski location? Let's say you're in rural Colorado, you're a farmer, you have a truck, whatever farming equipment you have. It's not just about the privilege. It's not just about the people who have resources. We have some people that need access to transportation that's not EV. I have families who just want to be able to have a car to go to the grocery store. This is not about privilege. This is about access. And for some people, access is transportation. I know families who work hard and they save their money month after month after month so they can buy a vehicle. And then we're trying to put in play in a situation that creates a divide between the haves and the have-nots. This is not good policy, and it's not good practice, because people who want that can get it. Go to any dealership. If you look at the dealership model, all across Main Street in Colorado, they're concentrated. That means if you're a consumer and you're trying to buy a car, there's just not one dealership on that lane or on that street. There's 4, 5, 6. The reason why is because it's competition. It's for that single mom, that she has options. She can go to the Ford, she can go to Honda, she can go to Lexus or Cadillac, GMC. Have you seen it lately? Most dealerships aren't occupying space singular. They're compressed. That means it gives the consumer options. So if you want to buy an electrical vehicle, you can still do that. We don't need this bill to undermine our economy so that someone can come in and do direct sales to buy a car. when you could do the same things. Do you understand what automotive dealers do for our community? I do. Do you know how many people they employ? How many people will be employed by a direct sales? I know people that work for car dealers. Some of them are high school students. And you know what they're doing? They may be cleaning and vacuuming a car before it goes onto the showroom or before it goes on the car lot. That job might be eliminated. You know what else they do? They have a situation where you can get your car financed. I represent a community where a lot of people struggle with maybe not having the credit that they need to buy a car. And buying a car gives you access to opportunities. Gives you access to opportunities. Maybe your job is 30 miles away. You need a car because it's going to take you 4 or 5 RTD rides just to get to work. And you live in a community where there's not an EV charging station. If you want that, you have the opportunity to get that. Why do we need this? This bill is not necessary. It's going to have a tremendous impact on the growth of our economy. Do you know how many jobs automotive dealers provide for our state and our nations? Millions. 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 And if you think about the state of Colorado, it might be thousands. These are jobs for middle-class workers. A car salesman, a finance manager, a loan officer, someone that operates the service department. I have people in my community that want to be a technician. They just want to fix cars, repair cars. If you buy from a direct sales, where are you going to get your service from? The way the model works right now with our franchise model, it starts from the manufacturer, it then goes out to the community across our counties, and then you can buy any kind of vehicle that you want. And when you buy that vehicle, you have the opportunity to get it serviced. We are undermining that practice in the state of Colorado. And we're doing it at the expense of poor people or middle-class earners as it relates to their ability to have access to a product. If you want your EV, go to a dealership. Help grow the economy. Help build the economy. And that's what dealerships do. Not only do they sell cars, they support our community. I can't tell you the number of dealers that I've seen provide a car for a parade, a convertible. A direct dealer is going to do that? How do you contact them to support your economy? How do they support a little league team? I've seen dealers help people who are dealing with all kinds of crises in our community, especially in Aurora and Arapahoe County, especially after the Aurora Theater shooting. They are so generous and they're so charitable. How are you going to do that if you're direct sales? How are you engaged in the community? Our automotive dealers are plugged in and engaged in our community. If you close down or interfere with the operation of a local dealer, you are crippling some communities. It could be Montrose, it could be Sterling, it could be Pueblo, it could be El Paso County, it could be Aurora, it could be Fort Collins, it could be wherever in our state of Colorado. Really? You want to undermine a business a long-standing operation in a community for direct sales when you can get the same kind of service that is operated by a direct dealer? This is serious, what we're talking about today. This is very serious. We need car dealers in our community. If you want an EV vehicle, and I'm for that. I'm for options. You can get that. But by providing direct sales, you are going to cripple and have a devastating impact in communities across our state by allowing this. This is about losers and winners. It's about the haves and the have-nots. I don't know what side you're on, but I know what side I stand on. And I stand on the side of that mother who has 4 kids, who needs a car. She needs transportation. Maybe she doesn't have access to online purchase. Maybe she doesn't have internet. And we know there is a broadband issue in the state of Colorado. If you have the privilege to do that, fine. Don't cripple my community and the people that I represent. If you want an EV vehicle, go to a dealership, buy one. They're on the lot. So members, think carefully about this. Think carefully about this. Think carefully about that person who cannot buy a transportation right now, and we're trying to force. There was an executive order that was passed this last year requiring the number of EV vehicles that have to be purchased by the whatever year, 2040 or whatever it is. Not all people have opportunities to do that. Some do. Some do, and good for you. Good for you if you can. And we have many people in this chambers that have EVs. Good for you. I think we might have some charger station for you as well. Good for you. But there is an element of our society that doesn't have the privilege to plug up to a charging station because they're just trying to get to work. What's wrong with them trying to earn a decent wage and get a car that allows them to go from point to point? Maybe they want to take their kid to a soccer game and they don't want to take RTD to get there. This is going to have a crippling effect in our community. Dealerships are essential to our economy. This is not the right thing to do when you're talking about undermining a dealership that plays such an important role to the economy. The taxes that they pay to support our schools. And you want to divert that for direct sales? Do you understand the importance of community engagement? Do you understand the importance of relationships that dealers have within their community? This bill will undermine that, and a direct sales is not going to be engaged with the chambers of commerce, with our schools, with our community. We're going to undermine that at the expense of direct sales when they already have the opportunity to do that through any dealer. I represent a community that wants to support their local dealers. They want to support them like they support the community. This bill would severely undermine that relationship. And I'm urging you to vote no on Senate Bill 167.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. Appreciate the debate on this issue. I've really struggled. I've had dealerships in my community reach out to me. I've had consumers who want to purchase electric vehicles reach out to me. And so when I am feeling torn, I go and read the section of the statute that this applies to for context. And what I discovered, I'm not an attorney, but I can read. And what it boils down to for me is two words: own and control. Those are two very well-defined terms in our statute, in this section of the statute. And that's what this entire bill is about. I am frustrated with both sides of this debate because I believe under current statute, like I said, I can read, electric vehicle manufacturers have the ability to sell. Currently, today, they have that ability. But I'm also frustrated with the other side of the argument because this is what happens when we put protectionist language into our state laws. This is what happens when we try to protect market share in our statutes. So I don't have any answers for you today, colleagues. Vote your conscience, vote your district, vote however you need to. But know that these are the pitfalls when we put things like this into state law.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too, as the good senator from Adams County and I were just saying, let's bring this back to a conversation of where we are and what we're looking at. And I guess part of what I want to say today is I'm disturbed when I hear comments that car dealers don't want competition. I look at this sheet that was given to us. They compete against each other all the time. They're always competing. All you have to do is get a room full of car dealers together and they all talk about their models and their manufacturers and that they are, and they razz each other. But the difference is they work together. They figure out a way to say, we are here for a common purpose. Bringing in Tesla, bringing in Rivian, bringing in additional EV manufacturers would be one more piece to this puzzle. What concerns me probably the most about all of this discussion is how do we work together? How do you be a part of the team? The team is selling cars to people in Colorado. How do you fit in to where you work together? Again, I represent Aurora. I can drive up and down Havana and see manufacturer, car dealer after car dealer after car dealer. And what they have learned to do is to collaborate and to work together for a common good. Part of my frustration is saying, I want to come in and I want to be able to sell cars because there's such a high demand. I don't know if there's a high demand. If there is, it's available. People can get them. They can drive to another state and get them if they want, or they can buy them right here in the state. I know people that buy them out of state because they pay lower taxes. There are different ways to do that. I'm not opposed to another manufacturer coming into the state of Colorado. What I'm concerned about is it's one more tear apart. Competition doesn't scare me. tear apart concerns me, because it ends up being that we're not moving in the same direction to provide a service, to provide a product, but that we are not trying to undermine one another one way or another. And that's what I have witnessed in my 16 years of working with car dealers in Colorado. I've decided which dealer I'm going to go to because of the way they treat me, the service that they provide me. So I've made that decision. I trust that Americans and Coloradans will continue to do that. They'll continue to make that decision and say, I'm not comfortable buying this online or buying this direct sales. I want to be able to kind of have a face-to-face with somebody, and will continue to work with car dealers. What concerns me, though, is in terms of looking at the amount of contribution that I do see our car dealers providing and dismissing that. It concerns me that that is a message, and I don't believe that that is the message that the sponsors are trying to relay at all. So please don't think that I'm accusing that. But I'm concerned that we don't show that value. My boys played Little League Baseball with Ed Bozarth on their shirt because his car dealership sponsored it. Or I better shout out to Paul Suss or Ralph Champ, any and all of those different car dealers, because they contributed and they said, we want to be a part of this community. Through this discussion, I would caution all of us to never throw a industry in our state under the bus. We need to be very careful of doing that. Welcoming new and innovation is always going to be a part of Colorado. That's the Colorado progressive thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the risk of throwing a group of people who are contributing to our communities under the bus is a dangerous place to be. And so again, I just want to say, I think it is important that we are looking at welcoming new businesses to Colorado, but at the same time, playing by the same rules, expecting the same tax level, the contributions to communities, I think is extremely important. EVs are available. They're accessible. We can get them now. If there is a high demand to bring in a new industry, we welcome them, and we want them to be a part of that as well. But at the same time, I just want to say to us who are representing a wide variety of people in our state, caution at not listening to all players and not listening to the influence and the importance that a very well-established industry has in our state right now. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 167. All those in favor say aye. And division has been called.
Yes, I will.
A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. The motion before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 167. All those in favor of the measure, please stand and remain standing until a vote has been taken. Thank you. You can sit down now. All those opposed, please stand and remain standing until a vote has been taken. Thank you. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 167 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion before us is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, please read the report.
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave report has had under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 167 is amended to pass second read order and grows place the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 138 laid over until 2/24/20 and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 119 laid over until 2/25/20 and retaining its place on the calendar.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. The Senate will come back to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report?
Committee of the whole Amendment 001, Senator Bill 167, Senator Holbrook moved to amend the report of the committee of the whole.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cow Amendment 001.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This Cow Amendment would show that Senate Bill 167 did not pass. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the good senator that provided this committee of report Cal Amendment because it really shortchanged and hijacked our debate. When you think about calling for a division, which is a part of our rules, it shortchanged our discussion as it relates to this whole bill, Senate Bill 167. So I agree with the minority leader as it relates to questioning, did this pass? Because I don't think that we had a thorough and complete debate. So members, I urge a yes vote on this amendment, this Cal Amendment 167-001.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of Amendment 001 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Priola, Hill, Foote, Donovan, Danielson, Gonzalez, Lee, Moreno, Zenzinger, Winter, Story, Janal, Bridges, Rodriguez, Todd, Hanson, Williams, Majority Leader. With 15 aye votes, 18 no votes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, that amendment fails. The question before the body is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 167 as amended passed on second reading, ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 138 laid over until 2/24/2020 and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 119 laid over until 2/25/2020 and retaining its place on the calendar. Committee reports.
February 21st, 2020, Committee on Appropriations. After Consideration of Mayor's Committee recommends the following. House Bill 1019 be amended as follows. Also amended be referred to Committee to hold the favorable recommendation.
Governor's appointments. Will the clerk please read all the appointments on the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission?
Members of the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, pursuant to CRS Section 346104, effective immediately for terms expiring July 1st, 2020. Aaron Eileen Overturf, JD of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member with formal substantial experience in environmental protection as a Democrat appointed. Howard Lawrence Boyne, JD of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member with substantial experience in the oil and gas industry and as a Democrat appointed. Commissioner John August Messner of Gunnison, Colorado, to serve as a member representing local government as a member west of the Continental Divide and as a Democrat appointed. Leanne Rochelle Gelon of Durango, Colorado, to serve as a member with formal training and substantial experience in public health as a member west of the Continental Divide and as an unaffiliated unrelated appointed. Mark David Hopkins of Broomfield, Colorado, to serve as a member with technical expertise relevant to the issues considered by the commission or formal training or substantial experience in soil conservation or reclamation as a Republican appointed. Pamela Pride Eaton of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as a member with formal or substantial experience in wildlife protection as Democrat appointed. Brenda Ann Hahn of Grover, Colorado, to serve as a member actively engaged in agricultural royalty ownership and as an unaffiliated appointed.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the appointment of the following members of the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission: Aaron Overturf, Howard Boygan, Commissioner John Messner, Leanne Jolan, Mark Hopkins, Pam Eaton, Brenda Hahn.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the appointments listed to the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Crowder, the Minority Leader, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Smallwood, Lundin, Hill, Gardner, Marble. With 23 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, all the appointments are confirmed. Change in sponsorship. The following change in sponsorship will occur. Senator Zenzinger will be added as a Senate Joint Prime Sponsor with Senator Coram and Representative Wilson on Senate Bill 20-052. Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Joint Memorial 2.
Announcements. Message from the House.
The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1135, 1155, and 1157. Amended is printed in House Journal February 14th, 2020. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1128. Amended is printed in the House Journal February 20th, 2020. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1174, 1175, 1176, 1167, 1185, and 1217. The House has passed on third reading and returns herewith Senate Bill 3762 and 69.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the plan was to go in and do a brief special orders calendar to bring up House Bill 1019. I'm going to request a senatorial 5 just to make sure everyone is still on board with that plan, and we'll be back in a moment. So, Mr. President, I request a senatorial 5.
The motion is for the Senate to stand. I stand corrected. The Senate will stand in the senatorial 5.
I've got to bring up a special orders calendar before you.
The Senate will come back to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, thank you for your patience. We are going to go into a special orders calendar just for one bill. That is House Bill 1019. So, Mr. President, I move that the Senate take up House Bill 1019 on special orders at the hour of 11:22.
The motion is that the Senate take up House Bill 1019 on special orders at the hour of 11:22. This does require a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and the Senate will take up House Bill 1019 on special orders at the hour of 11:22. Special order, second reading of bills. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Danielson will take the chair.
I do have.
The committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed for everyone in the Senate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1019.
House Bill 1019 by Representatives Harrod and Senator Gonzalez, concerning measures to manage the state prison population and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1019 and its associated committee reports.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Is there any discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did, in the Judiciary Committee, we did move a number of amendments, and we did have great discussion, and I want to thank everyone who attended the Judiciary Committee from Bent County, from Crowley County, from Otero County. They really influenced the nature and tenor of this bill, which is reflected in the Judiciary Committee report, because we worked into the late hours of the evening and were able to come to consensus. And with that, Madam Chair, I ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too ask for an aye vote on the committee report, and I want to say thank you to the bill sponsor, also to the President and the Majority Leader, and the committee chair as well. Maybe I'll just thank everybody. But this is really an example of how we recognized some issues with the bill early on. We had discussions, and those discussions were productive. And I think it took the bill from a position where we might have spent hours here on the floor or in committee. I guess you did take hours in committee, but we don't necessarily have to do that here on the floor because there was agreement. Sometimes compromise is described as both sides giving up half of what they want And then I think of that as sort of we each nail one foot to the floor and dance around in a circle and claim that we get somewhere. That's not what happened here. We found a better way to craft this bill. A lot of it had to do with amendments that were made in the House. And again, I want to thank the bill sponsor for her cooperative effort to get us to this point and ask for an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. You're welcome, Mr. Minority Leader. To the Appropriations Committee report, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Appropriations Committee report and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given the amendments that took place in the Judiciary Committee, there was then a corresponding amendment that had to be made in the Appropriations Committee to ensure that we were funding the Department of Local Affairs as opposed to the Department of Corrections to conduct this study. And that was the amendment that was offered and accepted in the Appropriations Committee. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. There's an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L044.
Amendment L044, House Bill 1019 by Senator Gonzalez and Gardner, amend the Judiciary Committee report dated February 12, 2020.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, one of the issues that was discussed at length in committee and that required a great deal of discussion was how to deal with and responsibly review and permit out-of-state prisoners to be held in private prisons under contract. This is something that under the statute currently, the Director of the Department of Corrections has latitude over approval. The discussion was about how to strengthen that. There were a set of very prescriptive criteria originally done in the amendment and in the Judiciary Committee report. The consensus was, both from the Department of Corrections and contractors, that it was overly prescriptive, that we needed a more, I hesitate to say generic, but a broader description of the goals to be accomplished by the director in ensuring that the health, safety, and financial interest of the state of Colorado and the people of Colorado are protected. And so that is encompassed in an amendment that is now L0044, and I move L044.
Is there further discussion? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, there's a first time for everything, and this is the first time that I have ever joined in on a joint amendment on the floor. And so you will see that this L044 is sponsored by both the good senator from Colorado Springs and myself. We do think that this is an appropriate path forward, and members, I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you. Members, some of our discussion this morning was about the language here in the amendment. The amendment says, and it's an amendment to section 17-1-1045, and it adds a paragraph, actually two, but the one in question is what will be a new sub 3 if the amendment's adopted. And the amendment language reads, the department shall develop and rely upon criteria for the protection of the health, safety, and financial interests of the state of Colorado as developed by the executive director. Now, there was some question this morning about, was it clear enough that the purpose of this criteria is for the director to be making a decision about allowing a contract and the entry of these out-of-state prisoners. Make no mistake, it is my intent in bringing this amendment that these criteria that are developed are going to be the criteria that the Director of the Department of Corrections uses in determining whether out-of-state prisoners will be received and housed in private contract prison facilities or a prison facility operated by a subdivision of the state. So that is the purpose of the criteria. They're going to be used for that. I would expect that the director would develop those criteria. Then when presented with a request and a potential contract, would apply those criteria to determine whether or not those prisoners may be received in this state and housed in the state. And I urge a yes vote on L044.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, my good friend and senator from Colorado Springs, for bringing this amendment. But it's my understanding that in DOC we have a overcapacity, and I'm wondering how this amendment addresses the likelihood of us bringing in other inmates from out of state when we know that we have this overcapacity that's going on.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I think this amendment doesn't particularly address over or under capacity. We have private prison facilities here in Colorado. When space in those facilities is not utilized, the contractors are often approached by other states who do not have capacity and have to do something to house and safely incarcerate those prisoners. And so the private contractor wishes to enter in a contract. The state, and what this provision is all about, is the state needs to ensure that the safety, health, and financial interest of Colorado are protected. That's what this provision does. It allows for setting up the criteria. Whether or not we have more capacity or less capacity remains to be seen. If we don't have capacity, there's probably not a contract. If we do have excess capacity, private prison contractors are public contractors. They make investments. They have capacity. There are jobs that people in our rural counties are depending upon. All of that needs to take place and needs to be reviewed in a responsible way, and that's what this is about.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L044. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L044 is adopted. There is another amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L046.
Amendment L046, House Bill 10.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L046 to House Bill 1019.
Is there any discussion on Amendment L046? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is in regards to the study that has been much debated in both chambers. Within our Senate Judiciary Committee, we heard lots of testimony from community members from throughout the counties that currently house privately owned prisons, and they were talking about the economic impact to their communities and how their communities would be impacted if those private prisons were to close. And so we made amendments acknowledging that. And we actually went so far in the Senate Judiciary Committee as to shift the department conducting the study from the Department of Corrections to the Department of Local Affairs. when you actually then look at the pre-amended bill that takes into consideration the report and all its amendments, you then see that sections 1, which is on page 8, lines 25 through 27, sections 4 and sections 5, which is page 9, lines 10 to line 17 of the pre-amended bill, reflecting the amendments made in the Senate Judiciary Committee, that those are actually tasks that would be better suited for the Department of Corrections and have no business being conducted by the Department of Local Affairs. And so, Madam Chair, Amendment L046 strikes sections 1, sections 4, and sections 5 of the study so that the Department of Local Affairs can actually conduct a study about the economic impact of what a prison closure would entail for a local community. The reason for me that this amendment is so important is because I have seen what a prison closure can mean for a community. My family lives in Walsenburg, Colorado, and my grandma lived about just a couple hundred yards away from the Werfenow Correctional Facility. And we remember really clearly, I had family members, I had uncles and cousins who worked at Werfenow. And we remember when Werfenow closed in 2010, and we remember the impact that closure had on the 188 individuals who were working at that facility. That's why this amendment seeks to study closely and solicit impact from directly impacted communities. And that's why we wanted to hone the purview of the study directly. And also, the last part of Amendment L046 is to shift the report. Once the study is produced, its report would shift from the Department of Corrections presenting during the JBC budget setting over to Department of Local Affairs presenting the report to the Joint Judiciary Committees in a SMART Act hearing in coordination and in conjunction with the Department of Corrections. I hope that thoroughly explains the rationale behind Amendment L046, and members, I ask for an aye vote.
Thanks. Folks in the back of the chamber, if we could please keep it down a notch. Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to express my appreciation to the senator from Denver, Walsenburg, and Carrizo Springs for her work to focus the study on economic impacts. We have created a structure that has had a positive financial impact upon many of our smaller communities. Now there's a lot of discussion about restructuring, and there's a lot of potential economic disruption. How to discuss that, how to study that was a long discussion in committee. This amendment represents revisions and a lot of collaboration and a lot of give and take, and I urge a yes vote on L046.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate this amendment L046, but if the goal is to reduce prison population and the management of our prisons, and we want to have a study to assess the impact on communities, because it will have an impact. I mean, if you close a dealership or if you close any kind of institution, it is going to have an impact on a community. So how do you weigh the balance in reference to your goal being to reduce prison population, but on the counter side, it has an impact of that community? Then what's the priority? Is the priority then to safeguard those jobs in that community at the expense of then compromising the reduction of prison population? I'm just trying to get a sense of how do you do both? How do you do both?
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the good senator from Aurora, thank you for the question. Those are really important questions, and that's why we're conducting a study, is to be able to hear from the directly impacted communities as to how this would impact their situations and their economic vitality. And that's why we're moving forward this study in this way. I ask for an aye vote.
So for the further discussion on Amendment L046, Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, and I also am very appreciative for the people that are working on this. I know it's a difficult subject matter. But the reality is, if we're looking at a study, you know, I still have an issue with that. Because reality is, what are we studying? You know, you mentioned Werfenau County in 2010. Actually, we're about 10 years too late on this. If we're looking at how we studied the shutdown in Sterling, we're a little bit too late on this. We know it has an impervious effect on these areas. But yet the reality is we already have the study that says if, in fact, we lose a private prison in Crowley County, it'll be 54% of the tax revenue for that county. We have a study that says if we lose a private prison in Benton County, we lose 25%. The only thing that's not been studied is the doubling of the population and where we're going to house these prisoners. I think that you know, we seem to have a cloud over this state on, you know, if this is a corporation or a business. That cloud is kind of broad. You know, if you look at southwestern Colorado, you had a chocolate factory leave the state, 400 jobs. Northwestern Colorado, we had some oil and gas leave the state. You know, we had 181, you know, which actually oil and gas in this region. People are leaving the state. You know, we have a situation where it's been reported that 45% of the buildings downtown are rented and leased to oil and gas. You know, and the way the movement in this state is going is anti-business, and that's what I really have an issue with. You know, are we continuing to go with an ideology, or are we trying to, you know, should we move more to a practicality level? And that's why I have a problem with these studies. You know, I think that with that cloud over this my area in that region, what it does is actually it repels future businesses from coming in, because that's what they're saying. If the state of Colorado is not open for business, they will take their business elsewhere. But the issue with the bill, I'm very much in favor of CSP2 rejuvenating that. You know, there's three parts to this bill. You know, I like the first part. The second part is somewhat decent. But the study itself is what I have an issue with, so therefore I'm asking a no vote on the study. But again, I want to thank the sponsors and the people that are working on it. We are a lot better on the bill now than where we were. But I would ask for the sake of rural Colorado that we eliminate the study. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support of the amendment. The study is, I think, critical. If you look at the way it came out, the study had a predetermined conclusion. The Department of Corrections was going to study how to close down private prisons. So there was already a foregone conclusion on it. This study changes all that. It takes it out of the hands of the Department of Corrections, puts it into an independent third party, gives the authority to DOLA, who the county commissioners from Bent and Crowley County supported because they trust and respect DOLA. And so they're the ones that are going to be finding an independent third party to do a study, but not a study that has predetermined conclusions. A study that is going to show the economic impact of a private prison in these communities. You know, a study can go both ways, especially an independent one. The independent committee could say, you know what? These private prisons are good for the communities. We need to keep these private prisons. So the study can go both ways. And what happened was the state sucked into these communities years ago and said, look, we know you guys are having trouble down there economically. We're going to come in and we're going to solve your economic problems and your economic woes, and we're going to put in a private prison. And then they sucked them in and got them hooked into these private prisons, got them these jobs, which are high-paying jobs for those communities. And now the way the study was originally, it was going to take all those high-paying jobs out of their community and ruin their community. So this is going to say, look, how important are these private prisons to your communities? And like I said, a study can go both ways. It can show it's very important and that Bent County and Crowley County needs to keep those private prisons. So I would ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L046. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L046 is adopted. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion, Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, members, I want to talk a little bit, and I'll probably talk a lot, about some of the stuff that we've done, where we're going, and what the impact will be for those of us in rural communities with prisons, both public and private. You know, it's interesting that we want to pass another study when in fact we have studies out the wazoo already that show the economic impact of these prisons in communities. We know what happens to communities when we take prisoners or jobs or industries away from communities. Matter of fact, we tried to revitalize a community in southern Colorado and then another in Burlington when that one was going to close. How do we meet those needs, that lost revenue for tax base, for their schools? We know what the answer to the study is. I am glad that we actually have a somewhat of an appearance of a balanced study now, because when the bill first came out, that's not what the study was. The study was a tilted railroad running downhill to a specific endpoint. So if we're going to have a study, at least we're going to have a study that's reasonable to understand those impacts. But I can tell you, we're spending money on something we already know the answer to. Let me also talk just a little bit about how we got into this so-called crisis. And yes, DOC standing out there, the first floor standing out there saying this is a crisis. We're in desperate need. We need the money now. Well, if you remember how we got here, was there were statements made last fall that this legislature wanted to close down private prisons. So if you're an employee of a private prison, and you hear the legislature and the governor's office talk about how you want to close down private prisons, what are you thinking to yourself? Well, you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to provide for my family if they close my place of employment? What am I going to do for a living, and how am I going to find a job? So many of them started looking right away. And when they looked right away, many of them, because these people are smart, they're hardworking, they're easily employable. So they got jobs, and all of a sudden, they left the environment they were in, and all of a sudden now you don't have enough people to watch the prisoners in that private prison. So then we have the legislature and the governor's office blaming private prisons for the crisis we're in, when in fact it was brought on by the Department of Corrections itself. So now we're in this situation where we're in crisis. and we're spending X amount of dollars in private prisons. Now, the fiscal note that we got this morning in appropriations talks about next year having $20 million tied to this prison, to moving these prisoners to public prisons from private prisons. $20 million, let that sink in just a little bit. How many prisoners are we moving? I honestly don't have the answer to that. But if you take 20 million and divide it by those number of prisoners, explain to me the comments we have heard from DOC that says we can do it better than private prisons, we can be more efficient than private prisons, yet we want to take $20 million out of the general fund to move them from a private facility to a public facility. How does that make sense as a steward of taxpayer dollars? And how are you going to explain that to the teachers that we're taking $20 million away from education, because that's money that's not going to go to education, just so we can move prisoners out of a private prison setting into a public prison setting? That's what we're asking to do today. We're asking today to take $20 million out of the general fund because our public prisons are supposed to be better at this than our private prisons. But it's going to take us $20 million more dollars. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we have a crisis here. It's a man-made crisis. No, it's not a man-made crisis. It's a government-made crisis. And it's a crisis been created by our own Department of Corrections to force us into a box where now we have to spend taxpayer dollars, take it away from education, take it away from highways, take it away from whatever pet project you may have, to put towards prisons that are not as efficient, that don't do it as well as private prisons. And quite frankly, it's proof that it takes $20 million to do this, that they don't do it as well. Members, I'm going to ask for your no vote. This is not the answer to our prison crisis. The government-created prison crisis. We built private prisons at the request of the Department of Corrections. We have them available in our rural communities. We should use them and save that $20 million and put it towards education or highways or your own pet project. Ask for a no vote.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have a question for the bill sponsor. I was just looking through the bill, and I was drawn to page 9, line 10 through 16, which talks about creating a new sentencing criteria when we're going to terminate, let's say, community corrections programs. And I just wanted to know if you can speak to how victims are going to be notified when there's a transfer or a release of an inmate due to a variety of different circumstances. Let's say it was a sexual assault. Let's say it was a robbery. Let's say it was murder, or whatever the crime was. I'd like to have a greater understanding as it relates to victims' notification when there's going to be a change in the sentencing criteria or in the release of an inmate that's going from, let's say, whatever facility to a new facility. Can you speak to the voice of victims as it relates to notification?
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the good senator from Aurora about the that question. All of the current notifications that exist would still remain in place. The victims' rights law apply regarding notifications, and the COVA is in support of this bill. Members, I do ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1019. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. House Bill 1019 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion before us is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We will rise and report.
The committee will come to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had one bill under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, please read the report.
Mr. President, your committee will beg to lead report and considers the following tax bills being second reading thereof, makes the following recommendations to one. House Bill 1019 has amended passed second read order, revised, place counted for third reading and final passage.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Crowder, Sonnenberg, Lundin. With 30 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1019 as amended passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Message from the advisor.
We herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1167, 1174, 1175, 1176, 1185, and 1217 without comment as amended. House Bill 1128, 1135, 1155, and 1157.
Announcements. Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, we are all caught up, so we will not have committee on Monday afternoon. Free your calendar up a bit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I don't know who left the honey on our desk. It says it's from the people and pollinators, but it says from our Rocky Ford cantaloupes to our Palisade peaches, Colorado crops thrive with the help of our pollinators. I just wanted to thank whoever did this on the honey, because I think it's important to note, you know, not only the Rocky Ford cantaloupe, but the Palisade peaches. So again, thank you for the honey.
You want me to tell people they can go home? Because they don't need to be here. We senatorial 5, and then we just come back to rebuild.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I just wanted to draw your attention. Yesterday, I omitted acknowledging that you received these wonderful little bags on your desk, compliments of the Public Greater Chamber, and really call to your attention the save the date for the legislative barbecue that will be happening this year at the Colorado State Fair, August 29th. It starts the 28th through the 29th, so please take note of that. We'd love to see you at the Colorado State Fair.
So, Mr. President, I just have to ask a quick question. Is there an award for the legislator that has already eaten all their chips? Because I've seen quite a few people munching on the floor. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to add, so these are my initials on here, so I hope you all enjoyed the honey. But I would like to add that without pollinators, we also don't have Olathe sweet corn. We don't have Valley potatoes. And very important to the President, we do not have Pueblo chilies if we don't have pollinators. In fact, we don't have food if we don't have pollinators. So, yeah, that too. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. I'll let you add that one on the mic. So thank you to pollinators. Thank you for those fighting for pollinators. Enjoy the honey.
Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1007 by Representatives Coleman and Mateo and Senators Fields and Lundin concerning increasing the diversity of Colorado's educators in elementary and secondary public schools and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Education.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Valdez, Dean, Gray, and Senators Scott and Heisey concerning the creation of a single annual fleet overweight permit for a commercial motor vehicle fleet that includes both vehicles that have a quad axle grouping and vehicle combinations with a trailer that has 2 or 3 axles.
Transportation and Energy.
House Bill 1031 by Representatives Benavidez and Muddleka and Senators Williams and Hanson concerning the establishment of a new state holiday in place of Columbus Day.
Local Government.
House Bill 1044 by Representatives Byrd and Garnett and Senators Garcia and Janal concerning modifications to the pension plans administered by the Fire and Police Pension Association.
Local Government.
House Bill 1082 by Representatives Valdez A. and Rich and Senators Story and Fields concerning the authority of the State Historical Society to dispose of real property in Georgetown, Colorado.
Finance.
House Bill 1086 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Larson, Senator Fields concerning health insurance coverage for an annual mental health wellness examination performed by a qualified mental health care provider in connection with making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1100 by Representative Froelich and Senator Crowder concerning pass-through child support payments to families that are eligible for temporary assistance for needy families.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1109 by Representatives Van Winkle and Garnett and Senator Gardner concerning an extension of the income tax credit for employer contributions to employee 529 qualified state tuition programs.
Finance.
House Bill 1158 by Representatives Tipper and Harrod and Senators Winter and Finberg concerning insurance coverage for infertility and in connection with making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1166 by Representatives Arndt and McKean and Senator Tate concerning necessary statutory amendments to the automatic repeal of an Enterprise Zone Act income tax credit for new businesses facility employees.
Finance.
House Bill 1182 by Representatives Arndt, McKean, and Senator Moreno concerning the repeal of the sales tax exemption for sales to residents of boarding states without retail sales tax.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1205 by Representative McKean and Senator Moreno concerning the repeal of the pre-1987 net operating loss deduction for individuals, estates, and trusts.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1289 by Representative Kennedy and Senators Foote and Holbrook concerning an alignment of certain eligibility deadlines affecting precinct caucuses under the Uniform Election Code of 1992.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. Announcements. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, the Governor's Forum on Agriculture is Wednesday. The group that I run, Colorado Ag Leadership Program, is the one that put that on, so I am respectfully asking to be excused on Wednesday. I have indeed spoke with the Majority Leader. He said take as many days as I'd like, and I have talked to the Assistant Minority Leader, Mr. President.
Senator Sonnenberg will be marked excused as requested. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, thank you for your work this morning and your patience as we worked through everything. Mr. President, I think we have read everything across that we're going to do, so I move that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, February 24th, 2020.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in adjournment until 1000 hours on Monday, February 24th, 2020.